is a PG podcast, but then Devin just kept on dropping shits and fucks, and
I'm just trying to figure out what's in her mouth.
I just want to see him interview Francesco Accoli.
Oh, he's a good human being, is what he would say about himself, I'm sure.
Who's hosting this thing?
Take charge, Kevin, would you? Jesus.
First time we ever met those guys. That was the major drunken pub argument.
I think you guys are the worst.
I'm going to have to probably watch some Canucks hockey, unfortunately.
Just making friends left, right, and center, and probably some enemies as well.
Tell him to shut up. He needs to hear that every once in a while.
Off to a good start.
All right. We are live.
It's okay to talk when it goes live.
It is. Happy long weekend to you, as it's a Labor Day long weekend. Welcome to the Hockey Podcast. You can, of course, follow us on Twitter at podcast_hockey, facebook.com, the Hockey Podcast, youtube.com, the Hockey Podcast, where we are at 100, and the amount of draft picks that the Arizona Coyotes are trying to accumulate for the 2022 draft, 72. That was funny. I expect some laughter for that. Anyway, you can also subscribe to wherever you get your podcasts as well. And it's the OG edition of the Hockey Podcast. It's the first three of us gathered together when Trevor Linden stepped down. Thank you, Trevor, for stepping down because you started this. How's it going, Tyler? It's been a long time.
Yeah, it feels like months. I think it's only been 3 weeks, but it's going all right. Fall is definitely upon us here in Terrace. The leaves are falling. It's raining a lot more, sadly. But been back on the ice now 3 times over the past 8 days, and going to be back out there tonight as well. So that's exciting, and looking forward to our rec hockey season starting up and putting the referee uniform on at some point. It's going to be weird. Didn't do any games last year, so looking forward to a return to normal. Yeah, people have been warming that up for me already. So. Yeah.
Come on, ref.
Yeah. Softball season's done. Team had a good year, 3rd place finish, so we're happy about that. But it's time for hockey. It's time to drop the puck.
Yeah, out here, I was realizing today, and I'm still going to resist this, hockey season or not. The weather, it's now about time for pants season to begin, and I'm still going to resist it as long as I can. So, it's training camps into WHL for the most part have opened already. We'll get into that in a little bit, and then 3 weeks from now, I do my first play-by-play game for the Greater Vancouver Canadiens in over a year. So that's it's kind of crazy. Sean, what's going on? That rhymed.
It's fall. I'm in school now. Had a couple in-person classes, couple online classes. I will no longer be as frustrated with maybe some technical difficulties on this podcast after dealing with some of the online classes and that. But we're good. It's exciting week, lots of changes and some good hockey talk to get into.
Yes. So if you have any comments, questions, things like that, we would love to hear. As Joel also sends regards, couldn't come on. This would have been a perfect time for him to come on and join us because the Montreal Canadiens are in the news. They have decided after last week to not match Jesperi Kotkaniemi's Canes offer sheet and have acquired the 1st and a 3rd round pick from the Canes as the compensation. Then they have taken a 1st round pick and a 2nd round pick. They have handed that to the Arizona Coyotes and have acquired Christian Dvorak as their new center to replace Kotkaniemi. So this is where we start, and I'll start with Tyler. Who got the advantage here? If you were to pick a 1, 2, 3, where are you going here?
Well, I think you got to put Carolina at the bottom of that list, I think. so last year, of course, yeah, they kind of get screwed over by Montreal with the offer sheet to Sebastian Aho, and are probably paying Sebastian Aho more than they'd like, although I don't think that's a huge overpay. But then just you do the offer sheet with Kotkaniemi purely out of spite and revenge. I mean, they made no secret about it too, with the whole way it was rolled out with the Don Waddell quote copying the Marc Bergevin quote, and the social media theatrics around the whole thing, which may be cute for their fan base, but it looks, I think, kind of juvenile if you're not part of the Hurricanes fan base. And in the end, the Habs decide to take the picks, and so Carolina ends up with Jesperi Kotkaniemi at $6.1 million cap hit, and give up 2 picks, a first and a third, if I'm not mistaken, and like, you can only look at that as a gross overpay for a guy for 1 season. So, and then, Arizona, they continue to do their retooling in this offseason. That's good for them to try and get some picks back and look towards the future, and hopefully for them a future in Arizona as they seek a new arena. And for Montreal, I think overall it's a win. I mean, Kotkaniemi was clearly not solidly an everyday player for them. He was a healthy scratch on a couple of occasions in the playoffs last year, and while there was some potential there, Bergevin is not one to be patient in his general managing. It is kind of get with the program or get out philosophy there, and we saw that again here.
Sean?
I think it's the Habs came out looking the best here. You've got Arizona trading away a young player. Like, what is Arizona doing? Like, you've got young players, some good young players on that team, that you're trading them away. Like, I don't understand. I know you want to get as many draft picks for the next couple drafts as you can, but you still need to field a good team, or at least a team that can be competitive somewhat. So I as much as, yeah, they got picks, I still think it's not like there's going to be an exodus. You saw a tweet from Jacob Chychrun, probably very, very, very much someone who we'll talk about later on with the Olympics as a dark horse to make Team Canada. Very, very good defenseman. Not happy with trading Dvorak. They lost Ekman-Larsson. They lost Garland. Who's next? But Dvorak, I think, will be a good fit in Montreal as a more established center. Kotkaniemi never really established himself as an NHL level center. It sounds like Carolina's going to play him on the wing to start, which I think is the right move. And then, yeah, I think Carolina, I think they had the cap space. They knew that. Looks like Jake Gardner's going on the LTIR with getting another hip, surgery, this time on his hip, and I think it's a good ad for them. I think good rounds out their forwards group a little bit more, and I think he'll find another level in Carolina. But the time for Kotkaniemi in Montreal was done. Like, even before right at the end of the playoffs, where they just kept scratching him, and he's still super young, just coming off his ELC. I think it's you look at that, and I think Montreal comes out looking really good, even though Bergevin was scrambling for 7 days to try and find a center to replace Kotkaniemi.
Yeah, I look at this Arizona Coyote. I'm going to start with the Coyotes. It's going to be a dumpster fire this year. And you still have Clayton Keller, who you have until 27-28. They rescued a lot of people from salary cap hell, including the Canucks and the New York Islanders with Andrew Ladd. You've got Christian Fischer, who is, he's okay. He's going to be an RFA. You've got Jacob Chychrun. I don't mind that defense with Jacob Chychrun, Shea, Gostisbehere, Anton Stralman. It's not Connor Timmins. It's not terrible. Carter Hutton is in a prove-it situation. But they're going to be a dumpster fire this year. I think probably at some point this season, Phil Kessel will be traded. I think that's a foregone conclusion. To me, unless someone sees something different, he's a UFA next year. He's making, 6.68? He's probably on the outs. I think I mean, they're building through the draft. I mean, they've been a dumpster fire of an organization, but I mean, there's a lot of people in Arizona that are saying that there's some excitement around the team. So we'll see. You know, the Montreal Canadiens, I think you have to give them credit because no matter how you look at it, they did upgrade. I mean, I think Christian Dvorak is definitely an upgrade. Where you think Christian Dvorak is on the pedestal, he's definitely an upgrade from just Perry Kotkaniemi. I think the Carolina Hurricanes, I think as much as I'm with you, Tyler, as much as they have had the entertainment and social media for all of this, and they deserve the applause for what they've done for social media wise, I think that they completely underestimated that the Canadiens would not. I did not think that the Canadiens. I think they didn't expect the Canadiens to. They expected the Canadiens to match, and I think that they got themselves a little bit flat-footed here. I know that, like, according to the 31 Thoughts, there was a talks of trades, and Bergevin decided not to do it, but the compensation was going to be about the same. So really, that turned out fine for them, for Montreal. But I don't think that this. I mean, I know that they are talking about Kotkaniemi with a extension, and it's going to be less than that. But I don't. I really think that the Canes look like they got caught flat-footed here.
Yeah, I don't. You know, I some of that I would agree with. I mean, obviously they like the player, and they've spun that in their press release. You know, that from Waddell, they've been looking at Kotkaniemi for a long time, but they can like the player all they want. It's still an overpay the way this whole thing turned out.
Yep.
It's an overpay, but that's how you have to do things with offer sheets.
Yeah.
For me, I think I disagree with you, Kev. I think they weren't caught flat-footed. They knew exactly what they were doing. There was probably talk of a long-term deal, and they said if you sign this 1-year deal, we'll talk long-term. And in January, when we're allowed to put pen to paper on an extension after this, and it'll be fine. Because I think the long-term deal will probably be. He'll be 22 when that deal kicks in, and they could probably sign him to a 4 to 5 plus year deal at significantly less than the 6.1 and change deal that 1-year deal that he's got now. And I think it will. I think it all depends on what that contract, what that next contract looks like for Kotkaniemi, because with Gardner going on the LTIR, they're going to have the cap space to work with, and they've got a really good team, and they've changed up their goaltending. I'd still say one of the best defense in the league with Slavin, Shea, and Brett Pesce, I still think people don't realize how good they are. And then up front, they've got some good depth. They don't necessarily have a true superstar up front, even though I think Sebastian Aho and Andrei Svechnikov are right on the verge of becoming that. And they add Kotkaniemi to them in terms of their young players that are growing. With Sebastian Aho being 24, Svechnikov, Kotkaniemi being 21, you've got Martin Necas being 22. I like where Carolina is. I think this was a very well calculated offer sheet. I think this is what people talk about offer sheeting: Brady Tkachuk, Elias Pettersson, all the top name guys. Unless you're paying them $15 million, teams are going to match basically everything with those top players because it's so hard to get superstars.
Well, we saw that with Nashville, right? With Shea Weber when Montreal offer sheeted him. So yeah, you're
going to have to overpay to get someone with an offer sheet, and taking a gamble on just a 1-year deal with Kotkaniemi, I think is a very shrewd move. And yes, there was some full-on pettiness and throwbacks to the Aho offer sheet, which is fantastic for our entertainment.
Yeah.
I still think it's a shrewd move, and I still think it's a well thought out move.
Sorry, I misspoke. That it was Philly that offer sheeted Shea Weber, and yeah, I mean, and they had to throw out some just absolutely insane number, and they screwed over Nashville, but they couldn't not match. To Kevin's point, I think maybe flat-foot is not the right phrase, but probably to some extent Carolina was probably a little surprised because just the history of offer sheets more broadly is that usually there is matching that occurs. I mean, this is only the second time in the Cap era that that hasn't happened. Dustin Penner with the Ducks in 07, or sorry, with the Oilers in 07, or it was the Ducks and the Oilers. That was the last occasion there. That's when Berkey and Kevin Lowe famously got into a media of war of words.
The barn fight.
That's right. That's right. Yes. And tossing grenades at the 29 other teams and all that. That was awesome. Yeah, but at the same time, it's pretty smart and shrewd to use this tool for not that top tier of player, but for some other ones that you see the potential in, and you think, okay, well, we're going to have to pay here pretty heavily up front and give up some picks, but we see the potential there, and over the long term, it really could work out. But right now, for Carolina, they're taking a big gamble on that.
Yeah, that's kind of what I mean, I guess maybe to me, it's the Kotkaniemi history here, the fact that he was scratched. It wasn't like, it's not as big a here as it is here in Vancouver, where you had the Olli Juolevi, Matthew Tkachuk pick here, but I mean, Brady Tkachuk was picked right after Jesperi Kotkaniemi, and I mean, you Sean already mentioned where we think Brady Tkachuk is. He's put in a superstar category. Kotkaniemi is not in that category yet. So I think he's got something a little bit to prove. And for the guy, and I understand that you have to overpay for some of this, just $6 million for Jesperi Kotkaniemi just doesn't feel like a really calculated, smart move to me. And if I'm Montreal, I wouldn't have. We talked about this last week, and Tyler, we didn't have you on, but I think that you were kind of with us in not matching, if I remember from private chat.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the initial feeling was with that cap hit and the Montreal's cap situation, and again the fact that Kotkaniemi didn't appear to be this must-keep untouchable based on how the playoffs went. And looking at the two draft picks, I was like, this might be one where they actually decide not to match and take the comp. And they did.
Yeah.
But they did have to do a lot of work to make sure that they weren't going into the season with one legit center. Because that's where Montreal was at. If they let Kotkaniemi go, it didn't make a move.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned this in the chat. If you're not matching this and you're going into the season without replacing Kotkaniemi in some ways, then I don't think it's a great move for Montreal though either. I think to me leaving it now, I guess it comes down to the interesting question, I guess, from a Flames perspective here is the name Sean Monahan is. One of the centers that was thrown in. There was another one thrown into, if you had a chance to listen to 31 Thoughts, there was another player put in here. But from the Flames perspective, if you're not a Flames, obviously you two are not Flames fans, but I'm just going to ask you if you were a Flames fan and and I know Sean's feelings about Brad Treliving, would you feel frustrated that Brad Treliving is again not in a trade that he potentially could have been?
I think what Montreal was trying to do, I don't think Montreal was wanting to move any roster players. I think they were trying to use the extra first round pick they got in the compensation and whatever else they needed in terms of futures and draft picks, because they have decent amount of draft capital to just replace Kotkaniemi in the lineup, and that they were able to find that with a trade partner to do that with Arizona and getting Christian Dvorak. I don't think the Flames were going to be able to. We're in a spot to just swap, say, a Sean Monahan for picks. They're in win now mode. Otherwise, they wouldn't have Daryl Sutter. They wouldn't have hired Daryl Sutter as the head coach and given him a 3-year deal. So I think unless Montreal is willing to provide a top 6 player in return, and ideally a right shot, a player who can play who is a right winger. I don't think it was going to happen. So I don't. It would have been nice for them to find something, but I don't think they were good trade partners.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know with the Flames. The Flames are one of these big head scratchers to me because it seems like for me when they should be making moves, they're not making moves. And then like last year in the offseason, they were very aggressive with moves, but then they didn't really get anywhere in this past season. So I don't know where you go from there. I mean, when you're talking about a Monahan or a Goudreau, you have to get a big return there. Otherwise, that probably might be the thing that puts Brad Treliving's job security in question. So, I can understand why he would be taking the very patient approach to try and get a good deal, because they're still pretty good players and they've been there a long time and are core pieces. So there's going to be reluctance to make a deal there. You don't want to do some kind of deal that looks like you're giving them away, especially with how the last couple of off seasons have gone for the Flames. So, and really, I mean, the market pressure. I mean, it's not like Vancouver where every 5 seconds there's somebody screaming over something. That doesn't seem to be the case in Calgary. There does seem to be a lot of patience with the fans. So I'm not sure, why he would have to knee-jerk react to make a deal for some players and Sean Monahan.
Well, just to go down this rabbit trail, though, a little bit more, I think that part of the problem is Treliving said that there was this offseason, there was going to be change, and Blake Coleman came in, Tyler Pitlick came in, Nikita Zadorov came in, Mark Giordano out. But there still hasn't been.
Well, that's changed. That's not status quo. He didn't say how much change, did he?
I think. Well, I heard him say core. I think people heard him say core pieces.
Well, I mean, not protecting Giordano and having him go is a big change to your core. He's captain of the team, the most senior guy there, a huge presence. It's going to be different without him.
Sure, but is it earth-shattering enough for that organization? I guess
to move forward? No, probably not.
Yeah, and I think
but when he said there's going to be changes, didn't mean he was going to drop the bomb on the thing and start over.
And I think that that's probably from the Flames fans' perspective. I think that they are waiting for that bomb to drop, per se. I think that that's part of it. I mean, that's why I think, more and more I think about it, that's why a lot of Flames fans were tweeting about Treliving go after Tomas Hertl, even though I don't think that is even a realistic possibility for the Flames. Sorry, Flames fans, I just don't see it. He's got a 3-team. His trade status is a 3-team place, and I'm with Sean on the fact that I don't know if the rumors about Tomas Hertl wanting out of San Jose are necessarily true. I'd like to wait and see more on that. So I mean,
just to expand on that,
yeah,
the talk was that there was an article written in the Athletic and mentioning how Hertl, among others, are not happy with how San Jose's handled the Evander Kane situation. And if things don't work out, maybe he'll want out.
Yeah,
that is speculation. That is not a rumor, and that's
really reaching speculation.
That is it, and that's something I think we need to make sure we separate and understand the differences of when we're talking about potential moves and who's potentially available, because how many times, especially like as Kevin, you're in Vancouver, Tyler and I are Canucks fans as well. We've listened to more than our fair share of Canucks media and are on Twitter and the Canucks Twitter. How many times have people taken what someone has said and it's pure speculation and ran with it like it's a rumor, like it's he wants out or they're shopping this person, as opposed to when you actually listen to or read or listen to what was said, it's definitely, well, maybe they should do this. Well, maybe they are looking into this. That's where I think we need to make sure us as fans and the media need to make sure that they express, because to me that's a huge difference. because one is I have a source saying that Thomas Hertl wants out, and that's not what's happening here. It's literally just a speculation based off of how things have gone that maybe he might want out. Because I believe there was a clarification later on saying he doesn't know what I saw the clarification basically being he doesn't know where he stands with San Jose and his extension because he's only got 1 year left. And he also doesn't know where he stands with San Jose and whether or not he wants to stay and get an extension, or if he wants to explore requesting a trade or anything. So you have to know what the difference is, in my opinion, in terms of when you're discussing these topics.
Well, I mean, just to go even further into that though with San Jose, I would think at some point here there has to be a serious examination of where they are at as an organization, and to me, my answer is I would probably look at Thomas Hertl as a guy that I would be building around. But I think legitimately you could look at, you have to ask, would you trade Thomas Hertl and you could get something for him, or you want to keep him? But even beyond what the situation of how they handled Evander Kane, which I could see players not being happy about, there does need to be an organizational change there for sure. But I don't see that being. I just don't see that Hertl trade in terms of Flamesland being realistic. But I do think the other side of this and the other part of this, which becomes difficult, is I think that there are fans that are wanting this sheer blockbuster move. That's why I think that was in part why I think a lot of people were really happy about the Kotkaniemi offer sheet, because it was something that we could look at. And I think, Flames fans, I think, are looking for that blockbuster move. I think, and other fans are just looking for something exciting to talk about. And that's why they try to toss out Thomas Hertl out there. But I just don't see that as a realistic thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. But, I just, to toss this to Arizona for a quick second here, they are in an interesting situation. I don't know if I think that they're on the rise, but you look at what happens in 22-23 for them. Off the books, Kessel, Eriksson, Yaskin, Roussel, Beagle, Larson, Dzingel, O'Brien, Travis Boyd, Strawman, Lubishkin, all UFAs, Carter Hutton as well. You have all this draft capital. You've got an arena situation that is in flux for sure. I could see Arizona being at the very least aggressive next offseason. Now, whether that is a sign of success for Arizona is a completely different conversation. I think that the fact that Shane Doan has remained in that organization and I think is a help. I think that there's some positive things with Arizona, and I think they have an opportunity to be aggressive. Whether they can be successful is a different thing, but they have an opportunity. They place themselves in a situation where at least they have the opportunity to build some success there.
I need to see what happens with this arena deal. They've submitted the proposal to move to Tempe, which is closer to Scottsdale, which is where they had the most success when they first moved to from Winnipeg to Arizona, to Phoenix, and where a lot of their ticket base is based, from what I understand. If they can get a deal there, that's great, but I still need to see that, because until they can be as aggressive as they want, but honestly, if you're like the only good thing about going to Arizona is the fact that it's warm. And it could be almost too hot at times. I look at that and I'm like, who out of like the top players would want to go there when they know that it's currently a tire fire. They can be as aggressive as they want, but I don't think they're going to be able to get anyone of note to go there without a very significant overpay, and then you're handcuffing yourself again. So they need to figure out their because you also don't know if you're potentially signing with them and then having to uproot yourself to move to, say, Houston or Portland or Quebec or wherever, right? So I think they need to make sure that they have that settled before they can even remotely look at being aggressive in the free agency market and being aggressive in even a trade market where you're acquiring players who can maybe help you long term. Because until you have that settled, players are not going to want to go there because of the uncertainty and everything surrounding it.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I said aggressive, but effective is a whole other thing, because that organization has just simply not been. And I mean, maybe at some point here, I think the NHL has to have. I mean, we've said we haven't talked about this, but I think most NHL fans are like, it's time to have a look at whether this is legitimately viable in Arizona, or you need to move. But Bettman has been insistent on staying in Arizona for whatever reason. So,
well, not Glendale though, but as far as the Phoenix area more broadly and the big TV market that's there, and looking at the map and having the footprint that they have there, that part the NHL is committed to, and as long as this plan for Tempe keeps moving forward, the Coyotes are not going anywhere.
Devin, who happy birthday to Caitlin. So if Devin could not get on. What did I say?
Caitlin.
Oh, happy. Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry, Tyler. Your hair looked terrible.
It doesn't. This actually took like a couple of minutes, and it stayed intact. I didn't have to fuss with it beforehand. So Devin's just jealous again, but that's nothing new.
It's not. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if there's anything else really to dive into this. I think we've exhausted this one pretty well. Is there anything else we're missing on this?
Like I said, just stay tuned for more information about what's going on with the Coyotes. 2 days ago, they earlier this week they applied for to move to a complex in Tempe, Arizona, which is just south of Scottsdale, east of Phoenix. So the completely opposite side of the Phoenix metropolitan area to where Glendale is. And like I said, as far as I understand, they know that their fan base is more based out of there, and it takes it's almost a 45-minute to an hour commute one way from them to go from Scottsdale to Glendale. So who knows? Maybe they can find a way to make it work, but that's something to watch. Not only short term until they figure out what's going on with that, but long term with whether or not we'll see another relocation from in the NHL.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't it be nice if they could just sort of pick up the Gila River Arena and just plop it down somewhere else, because it's a nice building, but in the wrong spot. It's kind of like the situation with the Senators.
Yeah. Yep. For sure. All right, let's move on. The other big news of the week is the Olympics. Is the NHL and the NHLPA, with a lot of restrictions, have agreed to go to China for the 2022 Beijing Olympics. At this point, I think it's fair to say that things can, because of the world that we are currently living in, things can change. But at this point, the NHL will be at the Olympics. So get your coffee ready for your overnight hockey watching in February and March. Are we excited? Where are we at?
Absolutely excited. You got to have NHL players at the Olympics. Once that came about in 1998, to me it was just like it would just be this real shame if they weren't there anymore, and that did happen with Pyeongchang, and it's just not the same. I mean, it's still pretty good hockey. I mean, I thought the gold medal game between Germany and the Olympic athletes from Russia, I hate saying that, but that's how they were called back then. That was a great final, and Canada picked up a bronze medal. And for a lot of those guys on Team Canada, that's a career highlight. They're guys that would not have had the opportunity to play in the Olympics if there was the full NHL participation. I think Mason Raymond's an example of, and amongst others that were, not too far removed from their NHL careers, but helped out our country when required at the Olympics. But yeah, I mean, the opportunity to see, Nate McKinnon, Sidney Crosby, and Connor McDavid playing on the same team is pretty tantalizing, right? It's, now having said that, Canada's not the favorite at that tournament, in my opinion. I mean, you look at how things have been going at the World Juniors with the United States. You've still got strong teams from Sweden and Finland and other places. So it should be a great tournament once it gets past the preliminary round. However, the groupings there, I mean, Canada, United States, Germany, and China, that's not going to be very competitive, obviously. But once you get further into it, it should be an awesome tournament. I'm looking forward to seeing it. But, as Kevin mentioned, just because that's the plan today doesn't mean that's the plan down the road. And the NHL has managed to leave themselves some paths to getting out of this if they feel they have to.
Yeah, I'm excited. It's a cautious excitement because, well, the world we live in right now, there could be outbreaks within teams. There could be other things that could stop them, but they've got the out, and I believe it's by January they have to make a final decision. But the fact that they've worked out a deal and are planning to go is fantastic because, as Tyler said, the idea of being able to finally see McDavid and McKinnon put on the Maple Leaf in a best-on-best tournament at the top level is something we haven't seen yet. Mm-hmm. McDavid and McKinnon both played for the World Juniors, but they played when the World Cup was on. Both of them were on Team North America. They weren't on Team Canada, so we never got to see that. And then just you get to have the constant debates on who makes it. That's always fun because not only is it Canada, the US is deep, so there's going to be really good players that aren't going to make it. Sweden, Finland, Russia, they're all of them are good and are going to be having those debates. And then the pools are fun too because we're guaranteed to get Sweden. We're guaranteed to get the Sweden versus Finland in the round robin. We're guaranteed to get Canada versus US in the round robin. Russia versus the Czech Republic is an underrated international hockey rivalry. We're getting that. Let alone we're gonna get McDavid versus Draisaitl. Who are the Oilers fans going to cheer for?
Yeah. Well, and then we talk about who you're going to actually see at the Olympics finally for Team Canada, but you look around at some of the other countries. I mean, for Sweden, you got Elias Pettersson and Victor Hedman. Austin Matthews with the United States. You go down the list. There's gonna be some real awesome, star power right across the field there. Obviously, China being the exception, and for them, I hope it's a situation where they can come up with the best team possible because when the Olympics were in Italy with Olympic participation, that was pretty ugly watching the Italians try and play against NHLers. So we'll see how that one unfolds. But as far as Germany, I mean, they've been coming along here over the last number of years in terms of building up their program, and while clearly not on the same level as Canada and the United States, I think they'll put up a respectable showing.
Yeah, it's intriguing because I mean, come on. Crosby, McDavid, and McKinnon, you got to at some point. That's got to be a line. At some point, you got to put them together.
On the power play. I'm sure that'll be on the power play, but there's just the line combinations are tantalizing.
Yeah,
you can put together an all Halifax line of Marchand, McKinnon, and Crosby.
Yes.
You can put together one of the fastest lines ever in McKinnon, Barzell, and McDavid. Could you imagine that line? Who's going to stop him?
Yeah.
And it's just you look and it's just going to be so much fun. You could have a Kachuk line on Team USA.
Yeah.
Going up against Marchand.
Well, that would be fun. And it is on NHL ice. It's not Olympic size ice. Apparently, this is going to be on NHL ice, so that'll be entertaining as well. Yeah, I mean, I think everyone is going to be excited. I think it's been a long time coming. Again, cautious optimism. Um, I mean, to me, you're right, Tyler. I don't have Canada as a favorite. I think it's U.S. or Sweden to me at this particular point seem to be the ones that I'm kind of leaning towards. My big concern with Canada is defense. It's just, to me, I think it's really hard. Like, you compare Canada and U.S. and what they potentially could put up in terms of your 6D. I think U.S. is going to be stronger there, and Sweden.
Maybe
You look
by a
even.
bit.
I'm gonna say the only team that really concerns me the most is the United States. Sweden, while strong, doesn't concern me as much in a head-to-head, say a gold medal or a semifinal where you have to win. But the United States, if you look at how things have gone over the World Junior tournaments in the last number of years, that's going to beat some tough competition there.
Yeah,
for sure.
that's kind of where I'm at with Sweden.
I just think I also think we're a little hard on our Canadians. I think they're like, you look at you've got that the Americans' blue line is good, but it's not like the Canadian blue line is a bunch of goons.
No,
but
you see, here's the thing. In the old days, we always, it's always like, okay, it should be Canada. If it's not Canada, it's some disaster. Some people might think it's automatic. Like, no.
Yeah, that's
it's not going to be like that. However, we're, our guys are always going to be, a contender, right? It's not like we're ever going to an Olympics as some huge underdog, but the United States concerns me.
Yeah. The way I look at it is Canada and the States that would be the co-favorites for me. I think they're right on par with each other. The only for me, what I could look at is maybe goaltending as the what will make or break those teams, because you got Hellebuyck, Gibson, and maybe Demko for the States, and then Canada you've got Blackwood, Hart, Fleury, Price. Any one of them can be there, and if they're on, then they'll be good. But I just look at it and I wonder. I just see them basically right on par with each other, because you look at how deep Canada's forwards could be, and the top end forwards that Canada is going to be sending. It's so hard to say that they can't be they're not a favorite.
By the way, very quickly, stick tap to Denmark for making it to the Olympics. What an achievement for them. They'll be in the same group as Russia, the Czechs, and Switzerland. So we'll look forward to seeing how Denmark can do. And same thing, if you look back at the World Junior results here over the last number of years, they've consistently been there and holding their spot, and getting some progress there. So we'll see how that goes. And then just to round it out here, Group C, Sean mentioned Finland, Sweden together. They also got the Slovaks and Latvia there again. Always a fan favorite with Latvia. So
Latvia, they're fun.
And they were at the Olympics in Sochi, and they were there. Damn near beat Canada in the quarterfinals, and they were there in Vancouver as well, and put on a good show for the fans down there.
So in terms of the teams we follow closely, let's start with the Canucks, who are potential Olympic. I mean, we've already talked about Pettersson. I think probably lock for Sweden, I would think. Anyone else on the Canucks that we see potentially? And Quinn Hughes, obviously, a lock for the U.S. Olympic team.
Quinn Hughes will be a lock for the U.S. I think JT Miller has a chance. I think Brock Besser has a very good chance. If he's not a lock, he has a very good chance. I think Connor Garland will have a tough time, just because they have good depth on the wings with the States. But I could see him playing his way on. And then Sweden, you have Oliver Ekman-Larsson. I think he's a lock. And the one player I'm going to say keep an eye on is Niels Hoglander. He's not on the team right now, but it being on NHL ice and the way he plays and the buzzsaw that he can be, I could see him playing his way on. I think it's a much longer shot than maybe even it's a longer shot, but I keep an eye on him. If he has a good start to the season and is playing the pesky way that we know he can, if I was putting together a team suite, I wouldn't be scared of putting him on, even if it's just the taxi squad. So keep an eye on that. And then same with Bo Horvat. A long shot just because of how deep Canada is up the middle. But I wouldn't put it past him to play his way on to at least the taxi squad.
Yeah,
And
Horvat I see as a long shot as well. I think the only locks really for me are Hughes with the U.S., Pettersson with Sweden, and probably Demko with the United States as well. With considering that there's going to be 3 goalies, as long as he keeps up it, the way he's been the last couple of years here, I think Demko is one of the American goalies for sure. But some other names there too. I mean, don't know how deep Slovakia is for goal, but Jaro Halak's got Olympic experience, a little older, but that's I think a possibility. And I'd have to spend more time looking at Finland's defensive depth, but if Olli Juolevi has a good showing here out the gate, maybe he gets some consideration for Finland. And I'm with Sean on JT Miller and Brock Besser. I think good chance that they one of those two is on the U.S. roster.
I think Garland is a little bit more of a higher wild card for me. I think I mean if he gets off to a good start, I think he could be there too. So some good eyes there. I agree with you. I think Horvat's a bit of a long shot, but a possibility for sure. I think he'll be one of the people that we will be having a debate about in this process throughout for sure.
Mm-hmm.
For the Flames, I think the only locks I could see, Matthew Tkachuk for the U.S., Johnny Gaudreau, I think is a pretty much a lock for the U.S. Lindholm for Sweden. I don't see Backlund on Sweden at this point. I could be wrong, but I think that's a kind of a long shot. Markstrom probably on Sweden.
He's a lock.
Yeah, he's a lock. Wondering about Valimaki, maybe. I don't know. Tanev, if he's healthy, maybe. Hannafin, if Hannafin may have a long shot there.
Hannafin's someone I think is a lot like Horvat and Garland and Hoglander, where he's got the potential to play his way on, at least to the taxi squad. Because again, they're going over to Beijing. They're going to be bringing not only 3 goalies. I'm pretty sure they're probably going to bring a 4th as well, and they're going to be bringing extra skaters, both forward and defense, just because what happens if there's injuries or COVID.
Yeah. And I'm just thinking if there's anyone else.
You didn't mention Rasmus Andersson there, but I would think that he'll get some consideration for Sweden, although that's a tougher group to crack.
I feel it's a long shot to me.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a long shot to me, but yeah, possibly. I can see that, and I can't think. Maybe Monahan. I don't know where. I mean.
No, I mean
I have Horvat having a better chance than Monahan.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's I wouldn't disagree with that. I mean he is a goal scorer, but I think that the Canadian team has a lot of goal scorers, and that's the one thing that I think Monahan has going against him is just the offensive capability on that team.
Anderson will have a better chance at making the Team Sweden than Monahan at making Team Canada.
Yeah.
I think other than that, I think that's pretty much the list. And I mean, former Flame Geo, is he in the running on Canadians? Is he a long shot?
I don't think so. If it was 2 years ago, maybe. Well, 2 years ago, yes, he'd be right in the mix. Now, he's a left shot. You've got so many other options out there that I think are better now than Giro.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would
skate
agree.
better because remember, even if it is NHL ice, it's international rules. It's the best players. You need to be able to skate. This isn't a tournament where you're going to be able to hide players who are going to be half a step to a step slower. especially when you look at how fast the States will be, how fast Sweden will be. You need your defenseman to be able to skate and stay with them. And I think, unfortunately, I don't think Gio's got the wheels that to be effective in a tournament like that.
Yeah, I would agree. How about long shots for the Canadian Olympic team? Who is someone that I think the one that you think is not, people are not quite paying attention, but has a better chance than people think?
Zach Hyman. Oh wait, no, that's just TSN. But although
Apparently
they
he dropped
yeah,
off
but
all
not
of a sudden.
he
anymore.
dropped off. He's an Oiler now.
Now he's an Oiler. He doesn't have a chance. He's out. He's out now. That being said, I do like Zach Hyman. I mean, overpay that contract or not, I do think he's an effective player. But whatever.
I wonder Blake Coleman potentially.
Yeah.
I think Blake Coleman on the States, I think could be a long shot. If he, again, fourth line player, can play center, can play all three forward spots, can penalty kill. I think if you're bringing someone to be more of a role player, I think that he might be someone that they might look at. Trying to think like good Canadian who may not be getting the talk.
I do have one, but
Who?
I think I would not discount Jonathan Toews off this team. I think he's a long shot in a lot of ways. I think that there are a number of forwards that have passed him, but if he gets off to a good start, his winning pedigree could be something that puts an edge over a couple of other players that could be on the bubble. Just considering that is one guy with Jonathan Toews, I know that there's some people that aren't a fan of him, but I don't count him out of anything.
Yeah, we just don't know what we're going to get from him.
Yeah, right now it's
took
hard
all
to
of last year. Yeah, it's just we don't know what we're going to get from him. And all I want from Jonathan Toews, and if I was Toews, I'd just be focusing on making sure I'm happy, my body's good. I wouldn't even be thinking about Olympics at this point. You don't even know where like, if they ask and he's playing well and he feels good, maybe that's when you start considering it. But at this point, if I was him, all I'd be focusing on is the Hawks and his health.
Yeah.
And that's all I want from him. I want him to be healthy because he's one of the best to play the game, one of the best to ever put on the Team Canada sweater and put the maple leaf on his chest. And I'd love to see him there, but it's so tough. Like he's been off for a year. Players like Couturier, players like O'Reilly, players like Huberdeau and Barzell and others have all really stepped up, and they could fill his role or a different role. And it's just it is someone to look at. I think it's a long shot, and I think people are it's just, again, you just don't know what you're getting from him.
Yeah, I do. I certainly agree that he's been passed. I'm not saying that, but I guess it really does depend on how you want to structure this team, too. That's the other question, because I mean, you can go to the Canadian team traditionally doesn't go completely offensive. They do have some defensive places there, so that's where I see Toews in that role. But there are some players like an Anthony Beauvillier, nailed it after a couple of swings. That's a guy I might put on a list there too. So it's certainly interesting for sure.
Yeah, and that's why I mentioned players like Couturier, O'Reilly, Mark Stone. I think they've all passed them, and you can put together a good defensive line. But I just listed the line.
Yeah.
That could be really good. And you would have that. Aaron Ekblad, Jacob Chychrun, I talked about Chychrun before. I think though, as potential defensemen, that I don't know if they're getting it. Ekblad's a bit of a question mark because he's coming off of a major surgery. Again, I don't think people watch enough Arizona Coyote games to know how good Chychrun can be. I've seen people put Mackenzie Weegar on the Canadian team. I think that's a little rich. I think that's just putting someone on there to be a little different and to stir the pot. But I've seen Adam Pelech been put on there. So there's we'll see a lot of people coming up with different players that could potentially go.
One other one I have just before Tyler goes, Neil Pionk could be a guy that we could see on an as well.
He's American, isn't he?
Yeah. Possible. I think he's in the consideration anyway. I'm not
I agree. I talk about a defenseman that I think people don't give enough credit to.
The point I'm going to make is just going in a slightly different direction here is who might the likes of Latvia and Denmark pluck out of the NHL to help bolster up their rosters. I'm having trouble coming up with any names here off the top.
Well, you got Nick
too bad
Ehlers.
Slovenia's not in this thing.
You got Nick Ehlers for Denmark.
Yes.
Latvia, they're gonna be strong in net.
Yes.
You're gonna have to be.
Yeah. Well, that's their calling card.
They got they've got Elvis.
That's right.
Ryslicken's in net. Yep. Yeah. But I just can't wait to dive more into it and see who, especially once you see who gets invited to their massive Zoom meeting that they'll have, because they're not going to do in-person orientation. So once you see who they're actually looking at. Not as well as I think one of the big talking points is like what veterans of past Olympics that are still playing don't make it. Is Drew Doughty a lock? Or is he having to fight his way onto this team?
I think he has to fight his way on.
Yeah.
But on resume and past Olympic experience, that certainly moves the needle in his favor. We sort of touched on Germany a little bit earlier there. I think they'll have a decent crop of NHL talent to have on their team.
They'll have Draisaitl leading the way. They've got some good young players that are just coming up.
Yeah, Tim Stützle.
Timmy Stützle.
Yeah,
as well as there's a couple others that I can't remember that were drafted in the same in 2020 as well. That will be they aren't going to be I don't think Germany is going to be a lay over and die type, or to quote Eric Francis, a free square on the board.
Yeah, on the bingo card. That's right.
Yeah, because not only that, Moritz Seider on the blue line is someone to watch. I can't wait to watch him at the Olympics.
Philip Broberg
on Sweden.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it was. Oh, for some reason I thought it was German. I don't know why. I was
thinking Oilers. There's Dominic Cahoon there as well. So there's Well, then Switzerland too. I'm not really up on who Switzerland has, but they always seem to somehow come up with a decent, a decently competitive team every time out.
Yeah.
Niederreiter would be the headliner on that bunch.
Yeah, and I think for that perspective, for those teams, I think it's great to get that exposure for them, and I think it just helps build them as well. They're probably not going to get, they're not going to win anything, but I think that helps that as well. So, there's going to be there's going to be some interesting debate along the way, and I'm intrigued about that part of it as well. And there's going to be a controversial leave off on every team as well that I think people are going to be scratching their heads about. So that will be interesting and argumentative as well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, legitimately, I think there might be a debate about if Mitch Marner's on the Canadian team. I think that will be a debate I think we'll be having throughout the year.
Is Bergeron a lock?
No, not for me. But
for me, he is just because of how great a defensive center he is, and it's not just purely taking the stat lines and picking the top 20 guys or whatever, right? Like for me, Bergeron's got to be on there in some fashion.
Yeah, my when I first saw it and started thinking about it, my initial one was like, is he? But then you look at how he played last year, and as long as he's like close to that, yeah, you have to have him on. You could have the Crosby, Bergeron, Marchand line again, because that's been a line in the past. He could be that shutdown center on a checking line. Bergeron, Stone, and insert player here. Like, that's scary.
Mm-hmm. For sure. I think I'm not sure. It depends on how you play the role here too. Because I mean, where are you playing? Braden Point's a lock. Where are you playing Braden Point?
Everywhere.
Yeah, I know. He's pretty much. Yeah. But he could also be that shutdown center though too. That's the other thing, right? If you decide to go Crosby, McDavid as your top two centers, well, you're obviously going Crosby, McDavid to your top two centers. Duh.
Yeah.
But where do you play Point at center or do you play Point at wing? Is where I'm making my point.
Point, Bergeron, Stone. There's your line.
Yeah.
Who's scoring?
Yeah, we see this all the time, Kevin, at the Olympics with the deeper teams that there'll be centers playing the wing, and that's never an issue. They buy into their role on a deep team.
Yep, for sure.
All right, just to go back to what Tyler was talking about in terms of players on Denmark and everything. You'll have Lars Eller, Frans Nielsen, Alexander True, Nick Ehlers, Oliver Bjorkstrand.
Oh yes, yeah.
There you go. That's up front, and then defensemen. Let's see here. Doesn't look like they have any NHL defensemen right now. And then with Latvia, you'll have Teddy Bluger, Rudolph Balcers.
This is always a fun exercise.
and then you'll have Elvis in net, and they'll all be playing for Matisse as well.
Yes.
Yeah. And then Switzerland. Oh, actually, no, Germany. Let's pull up Germany.
Yeah.
For everyone, I'm using quanthockey.com. They've got a great way to pull up active players from different nations and go by that. Former Canuck Mark Michaelis on Germany, Nico Sturm, Dominic Cahoon. We talk about Leon Draisaitl. Oilers' favorite Tobias Reeder.
Yes, Bob Nicholson's favorite in particular.
Yes.
Yeah. Does he blame Tobias if they don't get the German does not win the gold medal?
Yeah.
They'll have Grubauer in net.
Mm-hmm.
So
you start reading off those names there and think, geez, Germany might, they're gonna have a half decent squad there.
Yeah. And then where was it? I had Switzerland here. No, that's goalies. That's why. Switzerland does not have that. That'll be their issue. But let's see here. There they are. Nico Hischier on Switzerland.
Right.
Nino Niederreiter, as I said. Timo Meyer, Kevin Fiala. So
yeah, it should be fun.
Defenseman. Let's see here. Well, you got Roman Josi, the pizza delivery guy, and Lucas Sabiza has probably come out of retirement for this. Yeah. Jonas Sagenthaler, Dean Kukin. They've got some NHLers that they'll be able to build around.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be fun for sure. So, get your coffee ready. Hopefully, touch wood, the NHL at the Olympics in China. Speaking of international play, we have to talk about the Women's World Hockey Championships. Not have to. We want to.
Absolutely.
I think kudos. I mean, first of all, I just think kudos to all of them, all of the players after going through all of the cancellations, all of the crap that they have been through to put on, I think, a really great tournament overall, with a great hockey game at the end of this. I as happy as I am that Canada won the gold medal, I'm also just happy that the women's game has gotten the coverage that it has long deserved. And I want to specifically kudos Haley Salvian for her excellent work on Twitter of covering this event. I think she did outstanding, and I wanted to make sure that that she got some kudos for that, because she did outstanding, just in-depth coverage on Twitter for that. Kudos to her, but kudos for this tournament overall. Really happy for it. It has been long deserved, and I'm happy. I'm as much as you can be happy for the Canadian Olympic team, which we'll get to in a second here. What they've been through this pandemic and the situation of getting a professional hockey league together, I think this is just well deserved. I'm glad that this went off the way that it did.
Me too, and it's because of the sort of the egregious double standard that existed between with the double IHF and the host cities, as far as this tournament getting delayed and punted and moved versus the men's world championship going off with seemingly not much resistance or difficulty, although that was overseas. So for this to finally happen was just great to see overall, and the quality of hockey was great. It is a real shame that the ladies were not able to play in front of fans.
That's the sad part.
Yeah, kudos to the city of Calgary and Canada Olympic Park for doing another bubble event. They did all those curling events earlier in the year and hosted this Women's World Championship, and what a thrilling finish. You don't see a bar down snipe like Marie-Philippe Poulin's overtime winner very often at any level of the sport. So that was pretty cool. And I mean, she's come up big in so many moments. It's just incredible, right? Like I mean, she's I don't even have words for it. Like, obviously she's the Crosby of the ladies game. I mean, you can put her right up there pretty soon here with, maybe I should be careful making the Christine Sinclair comparisons, but I mean, Poulin's got so much career ahead of her still to inspire that next generation of women's hockey players and what she's doing for the program. She sallied harder for this win than she did in Sochi. Like that was almost a relief that they got the win there. But this one, this was pretty sweet, obviously. And at this tournament, Canada's had such a long drought. I think 2012 was the last time they won, and it had been 8 years since they had beaten the U.S. In any games at this tournament. So a breakthrough there, and now we're so close to the Olympics. It's pretty exciting to see what this bunch might be able to do in Beijing.
Yeah, that shot was just absolutely perfect. The goalie was maybe not in the best position, but still needed to be an absolute perfect shot, and it went in and out so quick that Poulin knew it was in. They knew they were going to celebrate at some point. But I loved watching that. I loved watching the 3-on-3. It was fun. I'm glad that it was 3-on-3 until a goal was scored.
Yeah.
I don't want to see shootouts in hockey and medal games. I just want to see overtime. And then whether it's 3-on-3, 4-on-4, or 5-on-5, having that sudden death until you actually score is pure drama, pure entertainment for me. And I loved watching that overtime, and I loved watching and following that team, because you also had the emergence of Jamie Lee Rattray, like talking about someone who's coming out and could be one of the next stars of the Canadian team and the Canadian program. It was great to see that.
Yeah.
And we just gotta Just got to sympathize with Blair Turnbull for a second here. Breaks her ankle in the celly trying to get off the bench. You know, everybody's celebrating. You got this player over. What's going on over at the bench? They're tending to her. I don't know if they, gave her some painkillers or what. When she came back out of the dressing room on the stretcher with the gold medal and just that big smile. I mean, that's as typical Canadian hockey player as you're going to see there. So I hope she has a quick recovery.
Yeah,
that's unfortunate.
Adrenaline and celebratory adrenaline is one hell of a drug in terms of painkillers.
Oh yeah.
So but her smile. Just sitting there on the stretcher with that big smile.
Like, well, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure if it was me, I'd get a picture of that. I would get it framed and I would put it up in my place. Gold medal on it's that and also that needs to be turned into the next one of those the Canadian history moments. That we've seen on TVs for years.
Yes,
that needs to happen.
Yeah.
Other big accomplishment in the tournament to acknowledge Hillary Knight passing Cami Granato for the all-time international goals record in women's hockey or something to that effect. But the reaction was priceless there with Hillary. She was informed of that, and the scrum afterwards had not known that. So the face that she made was quite something, and obviously had very nice words for Cami about what a hero she has been to American women's hockey over the years, and obviously, a great captain there of the '98 American women's team there that won gold in Nagano. So, and now a scout for the Seattle Kraken, Cami Granato. So you're now seeing that sort of that generational pass down effect with the ladies game, and hopefully some of the other countries can start picking it up here as well. Finland had a pretty decent showing here again, runners up in 2019, and hopefully some other countries can start to pick it up here a little bit. I mean, even Japan was hanging in there in their game against the United States for a little while. Eventually the U.S. pulled away. So, hopefully this tournament, although held at an odd time, I had this up on my phone here. I think it was like 836,000 was the average audience for the gold medal game, reported by TSN, which is pretty good for August, and peaked at 1.6 million in the overtime when Poulin got the winner. So, and I just want to tip my cap to Rod Black. I know it's fashionable for people to pick on Rod Black, particularly when watching CFL games, but well handled there in the overtime. Didn't say that it was a goal or not a goal. He was basically saying she says she scored, stuck with it. Once it was final, delivered a nice call about Captain Clutch getting it done for Canada there. So good work, Rod Black. I know you don't get enough love, but that did a nice job on that one.
I've never really thought that Rod Black is terrible, though. I've always
it's like the Pierre Maguire thing. People love to take shots when it's fashionable, and but
I was going to say it's like the Jim Houston thing.
He's been a solid broadcaster in this country for a very long time. Give the guy some respect.
Figure skating, football, hockey. He's very versatile.
Oh yeah.
He's baseball
Blue Jays
too.
Games forever.
He's very versatile. I don't think he's not a guy that I would be critiquing. I think he's probably one of the an underrated standard bearer broadcasting in this country.
And he seemed like a cool dude to have some beers with too. Let's be honest. By the way, I once upon a time saw Rod and Dwayne Ford at BC Place many years ago. Rod is a very tall man. Just gonna say, I mean, Dwayne Ford's a big dude, former CFL fullback. Boy, Rod's he's a presence too. Yeah.
The big thing that I'm really hope comes out of this is, and you covered a lot here, Tyler, but it's time for now to have a televised regular league for the women. I just think it would be great for development. It's long past time. Not only hockey, and I'm going to add soccer in this as well.
Yes.
It's long past time. Just as a side interesting note, I didn't realize this. I was just going through this, but hometown hockey moved to Mondays this year. There is an open spot on Sundays. I mean, you don't have to do it during the NFL season. You can certainly maybe start that at the start of January or whatever, but there is a space in this country and the room on TV to have women's hockey on and get that national spotlight that it is long deserved. And that's the one thing that I hope comes away from this, because someone like Marie Philly, like some of these players, they deserve to be playing more than just a week in August. They've deserved much more than that, and they've deserved much more than that for a long time. And it's long past time that this happens.
It's time for the NWHL and the Women's Players Association that's been doing those tournaments and that they did throughout this past year to get back together and work and get something to work together, because as great as the NWHL is, unfortunately it's not on TV, and you don't have the best players playing it. You don't have the Amanda Kessels, the Hillary Knights, the Marie-Philippe Poulins, you don't have 90% of Team Canada and Team USA playing in it. And that hurts it so much. I want to see the NWHL succeed, but they need to find a way to get these women back in the fold there, because if they don't, it's not the same. If you're going to have a league and you're trying to build it, you need the best players.
Yeah, and then all that fits in with kind of the off the ice aspects here too, in terms of marketing and getting the promotion from NHL players. And we've seen some momentum there. You see the guys wearing the PWHPA hoodies all the time. All those things have to happen to make this work. It can't simply be a TV network doing some charity to put women's hockey on the air. That's not going to work. There has to be all of that sort of behind the scenes support to really push the hell out of this thing and promote it and make it something worth watching. And if it is, the networks will be there and they'll find a spot to broadcast the games. Although to the point that Kevin made, I mean, Rogers has moved hometown hockey off of Sundays, I think for good reason. It's just, you just can't compete with the late afternoon and Sunday night football games during the NFL season. And so they're gonna compete against Monday Night Football instead. But I think in terms of the competition for eyeballs there, that should work out better for Rogers. And if you're gonna put women's hockey on the air somewhere, I don't know, maybe make it a Friday night thing, or I don't know. That Sundays is a difficult, high competition for eyeballs place to be trying to build a game in terms of TV viewership.
The other thing is and this is going to be me to reach out to the people who watch this, and I want you to extend this out to everyone else. If you want to see women's hockey, you need to reach out to and make more of a scene about it. We just saw here in Canada people demanding to see the Canadian men's soccer team's World Cup qualifying matches on terrestrial TV, not on a streaming service, on Sportsnet and TSN. So on Thursday, they had it on Sportsnet. Tonight versus the US is on TSN, and all the rest of them are going to be on Sportsnet. And it was because there was enough noise saying, we want to watch this. We want to watch this on TV. The more noise we make about saying we want to watch women's hockey on TV, the more likely they're going to be able to get partners to be able to put it on TV and promote it properly, and that'll help fund it so that we can get the best players playing in a league that's on Sportsnet, TSN, CBC here in Canada, and maybe some good cable networks down in the States.
Yeah. I agree. Listen, it's great that they have moved soccer, and I think that's outstanding. But you're right; they need to do that with the women's hockey as well. And you're right; the fans need to start screaming that out as well.
We have to drive it. Because if you leave it up to them, leave it up to the big corporate people, they're not going to do it. We've seen it time and time again. They don't really care about what we say unless we make a big stink about it. And you have to say, we want this. It's not, don't, and it's just that, as simple as that. I want to watch women's hockey. It's that simple.
But to get to that, for a lot of the casual audience, you have to find a way to make it must-watch television. It's easy when Canada and the United States are playing against each other and in some kind of international competition, but it's much harder to do when it's not that. So if they can find a breakthrough there, the product will be on TV. I mean, footy is a bit of a challenge because of the structure of the sport. There's not a lot of commercial airtime available during a match, but that's not a problem with hockey. So it's just a matter of making it fashionable, frankly. And if they can break through that obstacle, I think it'll find a place on TV and stay there.
You know what they should do, and this got brought up in our chat earlier this week when the PGA is now doing a sort of a Drive to Survive sort of show that's really the Drive to Survive has really revitalized the F1's viewership, especially in North America. I became a fan of F1 because of it. Why not do that leading up to the Olympics, leading up to the World Championships, Canada versus US? Feed into that, whether it's on, do that and put it on Netflix, put it on TSN, put it on ABC, because now that NHL's on ABC, you could throw it on ESPN. Like let's doing something like that, selling the players, selling the personality would be huge.
Yeah, you look at the NFL and what they have done in terms of, to me, they have been, as a league, the standard bearers in terms of bringing out documentaries, in terms of like the originality of it. But you look at Hard Knocks continues to be popular no matter what team it is. They also had that series about trying to make it in the NFL. It certainly worked. You looked at when the pandemic, The Last Dance was a master. You brought up F1. You got the Leafs as well. You got that documentary. You had the Connor McDavid documentary recovering him from his injury as well. There's no reason not to do it. I think people would watch it. And I think this is sort of the problem that, the women's game is facing the same issue that the CFL is facing in a lot of ways. And what we'll talk about a little bit, junior hockey in a lot of ways, maybe not as much this year, is getting to know the players, getting to know the people involved. And it's really hard to do that. This was great because we got to know Marie-Philippe Poulin. We know Blair Turnbull because of what happened, but sadly, that's adding personalities, bring in storytelling. And I'm
going to say this. They need more people like Natalie Spooner. She is a bubbly personality and makes, seems like there's nobody out there having more fun than Spooner. They need more of that. That the good on the social media, just like that kind of thing. Hockey players are historically very conservative with that kind of thing, but for the women's game in particular, give us some more flash. Make it fun, make it cool to follow, right?
Yeah.
If you do that, I think they'll get some traction.
Yeah, agreed. I'm totally with you on that. We have to get into our favorite, unfortunately, but we have to. It is an update. The NHL media and vaccine update has been announced that if you are vaccinated, you will be able to interview the players in the locker room. I just wanted to touch on that. I am assuming, I haven't heard anything, but I'm assuming that most of the broadcasters and most of the media people have been double vaxxed. I haven't heard. There's not the story out there like there is with the Blue Jays with Buck Martinez, who has opted not to, or some of the commentators in MLB. So I'm assuming, unless someone has heard something different, that most of the broadcasters have been vaccinated, as far as we know. So, are we? I'm basing this on Derek Will's tweet from the Flames. It looks like the Flames, at least, are going to be traveling with the team. I haven't officially heard that with the Canucks yet, But Brendan Matchell retweeted that. But I mean, I'm assuming everybody is traveling, and I think, I mean, this is just, I think if you're in the broadcasting right now, you probably want to, I mean, you've heard Jeff Patterson talk about this as well, how much I mean, he's not met Niels Hoglander yet. Like, yeah, I mean, I think that everybody's just wanting to travel with the team, and I think
we really want to introduce Niels Hoglander to JPAC?
Yeah, don't ruin Niels. No, just kidding, Jeff. You're doing a great job. Yeah, no, just to the point of the locker room access. First of all, I mean that's hugely important. You know, I know some people might roll their eyes at the media making self-interested comments, but no, you just can't get the same quality of coverage and insight, and therefore promotion of teams without that access. So that'll be huge to have that restored. Travel's one that I'm nervous about because, frankly, some of the guys did too good a job last year calling it off tube that, you know, the bean counters at some of these broadcasting entities might be, you know, looking at ways to save some money there. So I don't know. I mean, obviously, I think
as good as they were, it wasn't the same, and you could tell.
That's the thing. It isn't the same, and you know, I sure hope they don't do the disservice to viewers and listeners and continue to take the cheap route. But you know, I'll believe it when I see it. As far as radio broadcasters traveling to road games,
you can't tell the story. You can't tell the story as a broadcaster, as a play-by-play and a color commentator. What as well off the monitor as you can. Live, because you can actually you can look at how many times did I remember Shorty and Garrett, or even other teams having to, like, oh, I think there's a penalty coming, but I can't see the ref because it's not on the screen.
Yeah.
Okay, so the one ref hasn't called it, but I think the other one did, but I'm not sure. You always had that sort of, and you need that, and I think they understand that it is way better, especially in hockey, way better when you're calling it in person.
Yeah, I mean, you even the NA, like, you looked with Sportsnet and when NBC when they did their coverage. I mean, there was such an advantage when they had the guy, but I mean, between the benches, although it was on the side, it was, I felt, a bit of a better broadcast overall. So. But I mean, yeah, I'm assuming and hoping and I'm glad that everybody gets to travel, because I mean, it's just much easier for everybody. And you know, you can get that coverage of the team, and you know, it's better for everyone as well. And yeah,
and I think the teams, the NHL and the media did a fantastic job dealing with just the Zoom calls. And I think that was the right move to make during the last season and the bubble. But you do get a little bit, you do get some better sound bites. You do get some better, you can get some better one-on-ones. They can talk through some issues. Maybe they didn't like what they were said, and they can explain it, as opposed to them just not answering or not wanting to answer these guys, the media members. So it is better when the media are in the room being able to interview players after. But I think we do need to, in a bigger sense, we do need to talk about the sense of entitlement that some media members have in terms of what they can and should be allowed to do. Because you should be looking at it as a partnership and a team. You should be looking to get the best interview out of those players, and you can't just be doing that by skewering them over and over and over again.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you know, I mean, you mean in Calgary, you have, I'm bringing up the name. I'm not trying to be want to be careful. I'm being overtly critical of somebody, but Eric Francis has brought himself a reputation of being a bit of a bit overcritical and asking some inappropriate questions. You have Steve Simmons in Toronto that has certainly crossed some lines, especially with some of the things that he's said about the players as well. And, from a player's, he had Jack Dvorak blast a Philly reporter last year as well. From a player's perspective, I think that they have a right to at least say, look, no, I'm not going to be interviewed by you. I'm sorry. And I know that's, that I agree with you about that sense of entitlement, that certainly needs to change in that sense. And I think other players need to be interviewed as well a little bit. Like, we shouldn't, and I don't think reporters, you look at J-Pat is not afraid to interview anybody. He said, I've heard him in a class tell us that he wasn't afraid of interviewing Louis Eriksson after a bad game. There's a lot of that. Come on. Was Brooks and Tortsy just not entertaining for everybody in some ways? They should have a Brooks Tortsy section on ESPN, by the way. But I think that connection, I agree with you that's that sense of entitlement, that the players should have the opportunity to say no to someone. And also, I think a lot of players just feel a little bit more free and not as constricted with Zoom. I'm thinking of Nate Schmidt as an example. Nate Schmidt, I think that this is a guy that I think the Canucks and the Canucks fans are going to miss. I do think he had a great personality, but the year and what he had to go through was crap. And already, listening to some Winnipeg radio, they're already really excited about what Nate Schmidt, in terms of his media availability, is going to be. So, it's just, I think all of this will be better for everybody involved. Getting rid of this pandemic would be great for everybody involved as well.
Yes.
But
yes.
Yeah. But but maybe there are some broadcasters that have determined that they won't be vaccinated. That's, I think, if that's revealed, that will cross that bridge. But as far as I have heard, nobody has done that yet. So, and I don't see anybody doing that.
Yeah. But even then, like the NHL has definitely clarified a bunch of things in terms of that, and with the media availabilities as well as their protocols and rules with the NHL players, and other team members and employees. And it's good to see that they've got a clarification and what to expect this season.
Yep. Yeah, I think true. And I think for a lot of, and if you're costing the team and you're not going to be part of a team, which is in some ways, I think that's going to create some interesting dressing room dynamics for a lot of our teams. So I think putting everybody there, I think very good on the NHL to do that.
Just so if anyone who's watching hasn't heard, I think the big thing is that the NHL isn't mandating players to get vaccinated, but they're putting like a ton of restrictions on anyone who isn't. When they go on the road, they basically cannot. They can't go anywhere, and they can't have anyone over to their rooms. Basically, they can't leave the hotel. And it's just there's a lot of restrictions, and as well as the ability to suspend these players without pay until they're able to play again if border crossing and COVID infections for unvaccinated players become an issue. So I think it's a clarification. You know what to expect. Whether or not you agree with it or disagree with it, I think it should be is moot to me. But it's a clarification. We know what to expect now.
Yep. Anything else on that?
No.
We'll just move on here. The WHL training camps have opened, as mentioned before. There are only 3 teams that have not announced a date yet. That is the Kelowna Rockets, Medicine Hat Tigers, and Saskatoon Blades. The Hitmen started on Friday. Most of the teams, other than there's a few this week. Brandon starts on Tuesday. Lethbridge starts on Thursday. Everett started on the 1st. Kamloops on the 8th. Swift Current on the 10th. We are going to be doing a little bit more WHL coverage here because I do write for the Dub Network. So we'll be doing a little bit of a weekly WHL newscap. We'll be bringing in some people that cover the WHL on. Will depend on dates and things like that. So we wanted to announce that we are adding that as part of our package, especially, this year. It's not only, the face of this league right now is Connor Bedard without question, but there are a number of young 16, 17-year-old stars that this is going to be one of the more exciting years for WHL hockey in a long time. Just the BC division with Kamloops, Kelowna will still be there. Vancouver has made a lot of moves. You got Prince George kind of sneaking their way in there. That BC division is going to be a lot of fun to watch. I'm looking forward to watching a lot of games there. So, you've got Calgary and Edmonton. I think that they'll be competitive. You've got Saskatchewan, you got the Winnipeg Ice will still be around. So this is going to be, for the WHL, this is going to be one of the more exciting years. So I think I'm looking forward to adding that and talking more about the WHL. So I'm really excited about this year overall.
Yeah, Connor Bedard is someone to watch, and can't wait to watch him when he comes through Calgary with the Regina Pats. And I'm really excited to dive a little bit more into the WHL this year.
Yeah. Before we get to, I'll hand this over to Sean in a little bit, but is there anything on that we missed that we did not talk about?
No, I don't think so.
All right. So Sean is not leaving us, but Sean has added to his podcast world. So Sean, take it away. What are you doing? Tell us all about it. And
well, as of yesterday, the first episode is up of my new podcast that I'm doing along with Heidi. For those who have been around long enough, she is my girlfriend who was part of this podcast for a long time, stepped away as we got more and more people on. And her and I have decided to start up a podcast just talking sports in general. More than anything else. So we'll cover hockey. We'll cover F1 as we both become F1 fans, professional wrestling as we are people who like that, as well as soccer, tennis, football, basically anything we're watching. So it's Heels and Wheels. We've got a Twitter handle, so it's Heels, the ampersand sign, and Wheels Pod. It's HELLZ ampersand WHELLZ Pod POD, as well as Heels and Wheels on YouTube, and we're looking forward to just covering some more of the fun side of sports, the things that make us smile, the things that keep Heidi as a sports fan. Whether it's the social media aspect where they show their personalities, or there's goofy interviews that end up happening, or what we want to talk about. And please join us there on YouTube or on Twitter, and we'll be posting episodes once or twice a week going forwards.
so what I'm hearing is we're too serious. I am the Lance Storm of podcasting.
Oh, we get in depth, right? And this is more something that's it's supposed to be a little more lighter, a little more geared towards the casuals who maybe like just aren't fully into the in depth and the stats and all that. It's a little bit just and again, it's just not it's not just hockey. So we'll definitely have guests on to talk about F1 racing, professional wrestling, soccer or anything like that. And it's what we watch, what we talk about on a daily basis is now going to be on a podcast.
Cool. All right. Well, that will be that, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Tyler's excited too. He's just not saying anything.
I have to say it's nice to see Heidi back involved in some podcasting.
Absolutely, yeah, that's true. Very true.
Yeah, and we'll definitely have everyone from the hockey podcast on at some point as a guest to talk about whether it's professional wrestling. I know Kevin's a fan. We'll get Devin on to talk golf or hockey. Chris on so I can give him a hard time about cheering for Germany in soccer. And we'll get Tyler
you
on
want
to
to talk some baseball? They'll definitely.
That's what I said.
Come on for that. Yep.
You'll be our baseball go-to.
Right on.
I'm a baseball fan too. I don't tweet about it.
Yes.
But I'm a pretty big baseball fan.
Yeah. Kevin, before we go, I want to just get a quick plug in as well. Anybody from Terrace watching this, if you haven't signed up for Rec Hockey, Tuesday, 5 o'clock's the cutoff. Okay, terraceadulthockey.ca, and you do need to meet the provincial proof of vaccination requirements to play. So we're looking for more players, and it's crunch time here. So sign up. Come join us. It'll be good hockey.
Tuesday at 5.
Tuesday at 5 o'clock. The form comes down, and that's your chance to. That's it. That's your chance to get in.
Okay, done.
Yes.
Anything else we need to plug?
We've done a couple shameless ones here, so I don't know. You got your Dub Network plug. Sean's got his new podcast, and I've got Adult Hockey and Terrace. So I think we've covered all the bases.
Check out Devin and Ampton Vantage. Let's add that. Go buy a shirt at Van City. Go to Hannah for your teeth.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. How do we follow everyone?
I am Beardy Canuck 03 on Twitter.
And I'm on Twitter at TNoble, TNOBLE.
And I forgot to say, let's leave it there. So we're leaving it there, obviously. Devin Gordhouse09 on Twitter. Schneids, Chris is SCHNEIDZ. I am KEVOLE, podcast_hockey, Facebook.com, the hockey podcast, YouTube.com, the hockey podcast. We will be back unless there's a significant move. We will be back next Sunday, 11 Pacific, 12 Mountain as of now, unless something has changed. But we will talk to you all very soon. Bye for now.